What's up, everybody? You are listening to the Credentials Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Matt Sterenberg, and we've got another phenomenal episode for you today. This is episode 18, and we're talking with Michael Werner, who's the post-secondary planning coordinator at Mounds View Public Schools in Minnesota. And we're really talking about how to build a robust and effective dual enrollment program or concurrent enrollment. There's a lot of different terms you could potentially use. But he's got experience at the college level and obviously working with high schools. So previous to his time at Mounds View Public Schools, he was at Anoka Ramsey Community College. So he's kind of seen this from both sides, which I think makes him a really good person to talk about building dual enrollment programs, right? Dual enrollment's a funny thing. It's kind of both and. You're in high school, you're in college, and that's what makes it complicated in some ways. But they're doing some really cool things in terms of building out their program, in terms of participation, the credentials that they're able to give people. So they're actually doing a high school student could earn their associate's degree. We'll talk about how they're able to make that happen. So I think if you're a high school or college, you're going to learn a lot in terms of building out an effective program. But without further ado, let's get to our conversation with Michael. Let's go. All right, Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So, Michael, I really wanted to talk about growing and developing robust dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment programs in the high school and at districts. But let's get into your background a little bit. Did you grow up, when you were a little kid, did you always think, I want to work in dual enrollment? Was that always your dream?
To be honest, I had no idea what dual or concurrent enrollment was when I was growing up. Our high school in South Central Minnesota didn't have these offerings. And so mostly just an AP high school. But I knew I wanted to work in education in some sort. And so as seems to be the classic roundabout way for most of us who have gotten into concurrent enrollment, it's through exposure opportunities.
Well, one of the cool things I think about your background is that you worked on the college side and now you're at Mounds View Public Schools. What did you learn from your experience working for the college, and how did you end up back at the school district?
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, it's neat to have experiences at both levels. So I understand the commitment a college needs to make to a school and a school district to have a robust program offering. And I now have a pretty good understanding of the scheduling and the intricacies of credentialing and getting the right faculty into the right positions to teach the courses, and working closely with students and families to get them to understand the benefits, but the challenges and the advantages down the road that concurrent enrollment might offer. And so that's been a really great opportunity for me, and one that I've really enjoyed, which is, not having a program that is, random acts of concurrent enrollment, which has become pretty popular, as far as just saying, hey, we have a teacher who can teach our English course, so let's have an English course. But a series of offerings where students get exposure in a variety of different disciplines that, if they choose to go in Minnesota to a 2-year school, likely will meet the requirements for math, science, and communication studies. And so we can get students of all backgrounds engaged and prepared for what's next after they graduate.
So I'm glad you brought up the random acts of concurrent enrollment. And for those listening, we're going to use concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment interchangeably. Just to set the table for everybody, if you're kind of like, why are there multiple terms? There are different states use different terms, and there's some people base it on the modality, like, is it being taught at the high school as a college course? Is it on the college campus? There's a lot of different terminology, so your state may use a different one. But the pathways piece you highlighted is critical, right? We don't want random acts of concurrent enrollment. So if I'm sitting there thinking, we've got some in dual enrollment at my school district, how do I get to become more of a pathways? Like, how do I build those partnerships with community colleges? If I'm just starting out or I really want to grow my program, what advice do you have? Or how did you get to that point where you're able to build this in? And kind of at the heart of my question is, how much of this can school districts control and how much of this is a product of state policy and the proximity of the community college. So give me a little bit of the background and educate us on how we can go about doing that.
Sure. Those are all really good points, and I think the quick answer to all of it is everything. But what we did when I worked at the community college and the districts surrounding us started to get more interested in doing comprehensive programming and getting away from the random acts of concurrent enrollment, which we call it in Minnesota, was really to challenge the leadership teams and the superintendents and the executives in the school district to come up with a goal. And once they established a goal, so a random or an example could be an AA degree, like students in our 2 high schools in the district can earn, or Jobs for the Future came out with a comprehensive report saying that 12 college credits by 12th grade, so a 12 by 12 model, really is kind of the tipping point to get students who had not thought about college as an attainable goal for them to get the confidence as well as the credits to make that a possibility. And so once school districts come up with that type of a goal, they can work closely with their Institute of Higher Education to put those pieces together. And so that gives the college, from the college perspective, a good understanding of the commitment, but then also a good understanding of where and how to build towards it. So instead of saying like, hey, you've got an English teacher, to use my example from earlier, we'll start with English and just kind of hope for the best. It can be hey, you have an English teacher who's credentialed to teach this course. We're going to start there as our building block. And from there, we'll take a year to look at, if credentialing is the big issue, going from there. Take a year to do a lot of work educating parents and families about the importance of this work and the direction we're going. And from there, understanding what the next building block is going to be. So, a lot of districts have conversations about the differences between AP and concurrent enrollment. So that might be a good opportunity to have conversations about, do we have the capacity to offer both of those? Or are we going to move from an AP course to a concurrent enrollment course? Well, what does that mean for our students who have required or asked for AP coursework? So what do we have to do from that part? But I think really building a goal and then working closely with your Institute of Higher Ed to build out what needs to be there for the foundation to start working towards that goal will be really, really a meaningful approach to impacting a large number of students.
You mentioned the AA with the AA degree. That's incredible. Your students are walking away with an associate's, and you're not an early college, right? It's more your traditional high school that is also building this in. How do you piece that together? How do you get students to get all those credits while also having time for electives, athletics, theater, all the other things that you want to be part of, like a holistic student experience?
Well, thank you, Matt. That's very nice of you. We're very proud of the early college opportunities our students have in our district. We put it together with the goal that students can pursue their AA degree by taking, a large number of concurrent enrollment coursework in our high school building, but then also leveraging the AP coursework that we already had as part of our curriculum. And so students who do earn their AA degree have probably a 70-30 split. 70% of their coursework is completed through concurrent enrollment with our Institute of Higher Education partner, Anoka Ramsey. And the other 30% is done usually through AP test offerings. And so this was an intentional mix of opportunities for students who can take some of the AP courses in 9th and 10th grade, when traditionally students in Minnesota aren't taking concurrent enrollment coursework just yet. So students have an early opportunity to start on this roadmap and this pathway in order to do that. And that also helps give students the opportunity to use some of their very, very limited elective space to pursue 4 years of choir, which we have phenomenal choir and music programs in our district. We're very proud of those as well. And world language is another one that we worked closely with students and families to identify some of the most important electives that they would want to take and enhance their opportunities versus limit them if they chose to pursue the AA degree. And to a
And
large extent, we've been successful.
yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, you mentioned you hadn't heard of dual enrollment. I had no concept of it when I was in high school. I don't know if we had it, I don't know if they have it today or
Yeah.
not. It was just, I knew I wasn't an AP student and that was it. But that brings up like when, again, putting myself in the shoes of someone who's kind of getting a program started, and maybe you do a lot of AP today. AP was always, a certain type of student that was kind of, hey, we think you're an AP student. Like, this is how the conversations would typically go. And now you have dual enrollment, and you're doing a mix of both because of the reasons you highlighted. But what are the conversations you're having with students and parents about which path is right for them, what the right mix is? Because I could see some people, AP has more of a brand around it, if that makes sense. Like prestige is maybe a different way to put it. How do you navigate those conversations about what the right approach is? And if you were sitting down with a family, how would you talk to them about it?
Those are great, thoughts and really good opportunities to delve into, again, the kind of the goal of what a robust concurrent enrollment or AP program would be, and then really working towards opening up the opportunities to a variety of different students. And so we were really intentional about figuring out ways that students we consider in the academic middle, so about the 30th to 70th percentile, can achieve college level credits through a variety of different opportunities. And so some of that is going to be through your traditional AP model, like we've already talked about. And those are students and families who are aware of what AP means. Those are students and families who are comfortable with the idea that what I'm learning in October is something that's likely going to be on a test in May. And they're aware of that, and they're okay with that. I will give a ton of credit to our teachers who do all of the AP teaching, that they spend a ton of time in review and planning for the AP test. But if you're someone like me who's not a good test taker, that was very intimidating. So then you can have a conversation with students and families and say, we have other opportunities for you to earn college credit. And those opportunities, when you are, do a C work or better, in most cases it's better than a C, you're going to earn college credit. But you're going to know where you stand the entire course. You're going to have a good understanding of what you might need to do in order to pass the course, have a very good understanding of what you want to do if you want to get an A in the course. And then you just have to work very hard to get that. And so for some families, that resonates with the idea of you're a hard worker, you do really well, but I also know that you get really, really, really anxious about taking tests. And other families with the prestige idea are like, I would rather have you take the AP course. And if you don't get a passing score on the test that might get you college credit, we know you're going to be very well prepared to take that course at the college level. And we've done quite a bit of work with maybe the top 5 to 10, depending on the year, colleges and universities that our students attend, and get a better understanding as to whether or not they accept concurrent enrollment credit and at what level. So for instance, if a student is going into the College of Biological Sciences at the University of Minnesota, they will likely want to take AP Biology, AP Chemistry, AP Physics, because that is more likely to be aligned with and accepted as the equivalent of Biology 1, Biology 2, Chem 1, Chem 2, than the introductory offerings that we have through concurrent enrollment. And again, it's personal choice and personal preference.
So I think that's a good segue into how you communicate broadly, getting the word out about dual enrollment. Students and parents, it's a family decision on what courses they're going to schedule. And then, I mean, you highlighted this already, like how do we support them along the way? what structures do you have in place to make sure that the community understands what you're trying to do and what's available to them? What supports are in place?
Yeah, again, that really important point to make sure that people understand it. Just like you and I have had to clarify the difference between dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment, we have to spend a lot of time, I think, universally as an institute of higher education or a school district, explaining what these terms mean and what advantages or disadvantages might come up with that, what pros and cons might be there for different schools or different students. And so we're very fortunate in our district to have a dean model where our deans work similar to a counselor. But in this model, we have a far lower dean to student ratio than in the state of Minnesota, which ranks as one of the bottom 5 when it comes to counselor to student ratio. So we're well situated to build some very good relationships with students and parents to do that. But we're finding out that having these conversations with incoming ninth graders, which all ninth graders get an opportunity to meet with their dean before they come, set foot in the buildings to start the academic year. We know that there has to be a presumed level of knowledge that most families have to walk into those meetings with in order to make some wise decisions that could impact, the opportunities down the road. So we spend time with the deans in the middle schools. We've spoken at middle school, communication nights. I referenced in the previous conversation with some folks, you included, Matt, of being asked to talk to some elementary school families about at one of their open house nights about what does this early college mean? What can my family and my student do as an elementary student to be prepared for the challenges ahead? And so we've really incorporated and ingrained some of these presentations, but also some of the language to make sure that people in our system know what it means and know when they're going to start encountering some of these different pieces as they move through our system.
I think that's so critical. We want to create systems, and in some ways you are creating a system, but it is going to come down to kind of academic advising, meeting with families, and there's a level of listening to them, but also being prescriptive, like, hey, I think your student, your son or daughter is ready for this, or here's what we would recommend based on what we've seen. Like, I think some people do need that additional level of guidance. So the fact that you're able to meet with them early, I think is huge. I've got a big question for you, Michael, though. It's going to be hard to answer, but I mean, maybe it won't be. But how do you know that all the efforts you're doing for dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, are getting to the place you want to go? Like, how do we know they're creating better and more opportunities for students, that they're persisting within higher ed, that it's saving them time and money, other than, well, we know they got the credits, right? Like, you can see that that's happening, but how do you know that this is making a positive impact? Do you have metrics? Is it anecdotal? How do you quantify that?
Sure. Well, nationally, we're fortunate that we have, the National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Programs, which does a phenomenal job of promoting rigorous, high quality concurrent enrollment. But we also have, the Community College Research Center and a man named John Fink, who's done an incredible job documenting not only the growth, which anybody who's familiar with concurrent or dual enrollment will know is just growing in an astounding rate, but early research, even before the massive growth, had shown that concurrent enrollment has proven to be, a fundamental driver in increasing matriculation from high school graduation in spring to fall enrollment, has increased, fall to fall enrollment at the post-secondary institutions. And then we're fortunate in Minnesota to have a statewide longitudinal educational data system, nicknamed SLEDS, which in Minnesota makes a lot of sense with snow. But that also has been something we've relied on as a district to check and see where our students are and what level of education they've pursued after a certain number of years out. Fortunately, the state legislature funded more money towards SLEDS so that the data update can happen sooner than it has in the past. So the lag isn't quite there. But anecdotally, we've learned from siblings, from students who have graduated and come back and told us different stories that originally we were telling people and families that you can graduate early. You'll have enough credits that instead of 4 years, you can leave at 3. You'll be graduated. You'll enter as a sophomore, all of these different things. And people kept coming back and were like, no. I took on a different major. I have 2 majors. I took a semester off to work in an internship in my field and was able to graduate in 4 years because I had all of these credits. Or I was able to study abroad and take different courses out of a sequence, but jump right back in when I got back. And so a lot of students and a lot of families would come back and say, like, this was great. And it allowed my kid to do all of these things. And so it wasn't a driver necessarily of graduating early. It was a driver of I had all of these different opportunities that I could pursue. Or, those students who are choosing to go to a community college, or those students who are choosing to go to college and work, they could say, I could take 12 credits versus 15 and have a better balance between working and my academic life and my social life. And so that's been, I think, the numbers are great, and we run, and publicize our numbers. We publicize the number of, credits earned. We publicize what that equates to at the University of Minnesota in tuition dollars saved. Those are all really great. But the thing I think that motivates all of us and most in education is the rewarding feeling of having somebody come back and being like, I totally found what I wanted to do. I could identify with that, and I could build my portfolio around it to get a really awesome job.
Yeah, and they're getting an associate's. So even before they leave your campus, you don't even have to guess of is this getting them a credential? It is. They were here and they got an associate's. And to your point, if I was advising them, I'd be like, listen, students, you don't want to graduate college in 3 years, okay? Hold on to it as long as possible. It's not the real world. Take a second major, study abroad, okay? It's only 4 years of your life.
Exactly.
Do what you can, lighten your load, do dual enrollment.
We've focused as well on a lot of the students who are taking our welding classes and our auto classes, and I really want to be more intentional with that group. I think it's spread anecdotally instead of hauling them in and saying, hey, we are encouraging you to take a intro to communications course through concurrent enrollment. Maybe take an English writing course through concurrent enrollment. Or I know your dean has said advanced algebra is the graduation requirement, and once you pass that, you don't have to do it. But take college algebra, because if you do take those 3 courses, or at least one of those 3, you won't have to take it at the tech school or the community college or technical college. So that means you can jump right into your trade and take more of those courses without taking some of these other ones that we probably know you're not that interested in. You're going to be successful in them, but if you're going to school to weld, you want to weld. You don't want to write. You want to weld. And that's not a knock on any of the systems. It's not a knock on the graduation requirements. It's just a simple way of doing exactly like you had said, Matt, which is coming together and putting together a clear pathway and a level of understanding that's going to benefit everybody. And in other conversations I've referenced, students and families are becoming savvy consumers. So they're starting to figure out how they can leverage their 4 years in high school to either make for a really awesome 4-year experience in college, or for some families that just can't, financially 4 years of college isn't viable, or they refuse to take out student loans, how they can then leverage their experiences in high school to really financially impact, in most cases, lessen the responsibility as a 4-year school and getting a graduate degree.
What you just highlighted related to the math was a reference on another episode we did with Megan Garvey, who's at Mesa Community College in Maricopa, and they really were intentional about trying to get the CTE, getting those students college credit and making sure that they were wrapped into all of their programs. And they said one of the biggest changes for them was just introducing a college math, like a stats or college algebra, and just getting that knocked out. And then the overall theme of like a lot of the conversations I've been having is we are so focused on pathways, which is a good thing, but so often it's, are you college or career? And it's just this binary that doesn't make a ton of sense. Like we have to do both because again, I don't think a transactional, oh, I want to be a welder next year. Like, yeah, and you might want to start your own business, or you might want to manage people, or you don't want to do that 10 or 15 years from now. And so to think of this person as just on the career track, like what you're doing to get them college credit matters, because we're not just looking at the next professional opportunity. It's like, what is the long-term goal and how do we create flexibility as people shift and change?
Oh, absolutely. And we're fortunate to have a lot of exposure and experience opportunities in our district as well. So students can say they want to be a welder, but then take welding and be like, that was awful. And so we then make it clear that those types of experiences are just as valuable as somebody who takes welding and was like, this is what I'm going to do. But then encouraging them to say, well, if this is what you want to do, here's some other ways that we can really enhance your experience so that you truly get to college and you weld and then you're out of there. But again, also, beginning some of these conversations earlier and, students having a comprehensive kind of introductory meeting with their dean to build that collaborative relationship early gets them to start thinking about some of these different things and saying, well, I'm not that interested in intro to business now, but I could see how having those foundational skills can be very beneficial down the road, because really, who knows what's going to happen? Like you said, I could start out as a welder and then realize like I can make a ton of money welding fences, decorative fences, because I'm artistic, I like it. And I can use that, intro to business course to at least give me enough of a background to get a few of the wheels turning that I might need to do that. And so again, our focus too is we intentionally named all of our career and college centers career and college, in that in most cases, the identification of what you might want to do should be the first step in then figuring out what is going to get you to that ultimate goal. And so we're kind of this awesome spot of exploration and exposure, along with, some really good preparation work to move people in the direction they'd like to pursue.
So you started off basically communicating, start with the end in mind, right? What are your goals?
Correct.
And then from there you can think about, do we have the resources available? Do we have the teachers that are credentialed? Like what we know what to measure. Any other pieces of advice that you have for other school districts, people that are in your position or people that are just starting off? Anything else that you want to highlight for people that are thinking about their programs?
I mean, really the goal and end in mind of what the student experience should is the ideal student experiences, and what type of college credit earning opportunities students will walk out of your buildings with is monumental. But then the infrastructure absolutely has to contain opportunities for building leaders and teachers and staff and counselors and everybody to have a massive understanding of the programs itself and themselves and the courses themselves, the eligibility criteria, if you're from a state that has eligibility criteria for the different courses, but then the empowerment to have those conversations and say, Matt, you didn't sign up for this, but I know you can do it. Like, I know you're there. Like this is an advantageous opportunity for you, and building that, and then maybe following up and being like, hey, Matt, I'm going to call your mom and dad and I'm going to have the same conversation. And so hopefully if they have more questions, we can all come and meet if we want to do that. So you have to be really intentional in building that. And then once you kind of reach this level where, like you turn around and talk to your friends and be like, did Mr. Werner talk to you about taking this class? And be like, no, I'm already in it because my brother took it and loved it. And like, he didn't have to take it in college. So I'm already there. Then you can be like, well, I'm the oldest, so this is my new experience. But how awesome would that feel as a parent to have a phone call and be like, I had this really great conversation with your kid, and I'm encouraging him to take a more challenging course. But before I keep talking to him, I wanted to let you know that A, I think he can do it, but B, let's work together to get him there, because I really think it's going to open up some other opportunities for him. And we were really lucky, and still very lucky, to have dedicated individuals who feel comfortable and confident having those conversations, but then also a really supportive, broader ecosystem that is aware of those different opportunities and is willing to encourage others to do that. And so I think that would be the next big piece, is identify your goal, start building towards that, but at the same time, really bringing everybody in to making sure they understand what awesome opportunities are out there for students.
Well, Michael, you motivated me. I was like, I think I can do dual enrollment. Let's go. I feel like I could do it. Can you call my mom and dad and tell them?
Yeah. Yes. I will be on the phone with them shortly. So
I was just on a podcast with Matt. I think he can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's good. I mean, intro to communication, Matt. I think it's out there for you.
Hey, there you go.
It's a good one.
Michael, I really appreciate you joining me, and I think it's so awesome to have boots on the ground, people that are living and breathing this every day. You highlighted a bunch of organizations. If you are new to dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, check out nacep.org, NACEP.org, or CCRC, Community College Research Center. They've got a ton of great stuff, so check them out. But Michael, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Matt.
So that is our episode. Thanks again to Michael for joining us. I hope you learned a lot. I find dual enrollment so fascinating. Number one, it's growing across the country at a time where enrollments are either dropping or are flat. And so dual enrollment becomes that much more important, right? As it promises to connect students to post-secondary. We need more of that. And so I think it's just a really interesting topic to continue to dig into and see how it impacts some of those post-secondary enrollment trends. And obviously having someone who's living and breathing it every day is an awesome resource. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you listening. Like I said, 18 episodes. We're so thrilled to be doing this. We've got some amazing episodes coming up. We're going to be talking, the next episode's going to be with Rodney Parks from Elon University. He's the registrar and assistant vice president there. And we're talking about comprehensive learner records. So if CLRs are something that your institution is interested in, you probably know about Rodney because he was one of the pioneers in this, thinking about an experiential transcript, thinking about CLRs. And so he's going to give us a lot of insight there. So make sure you tune into that one. And with that, goodbye.